Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Political Spectrum podcast show thing with your host JJ Michaels. I'm JJ Michaels. This is the show. Turn the music down a little bit here. We had a great response to our opening episode yesterday, so we're jumping right into it with a TPS report today. TPS. The Political Spectrum report, right? It's a joke. Office Space, remember that? Remember that movie? Shot right here in Austin, Texas. Actually, I think it was shot in Round Rock, which is just up the street from the TPS offices here at Studio C. And anyway, the TPS report, what is it? Well, there's a podcast that I really love. Anyway, one of the things that the host does, I really enjoy. He goes through bullet points, right? Some of the news of the day and just gives us thoughts. I thought I'd do the same thing. And that is the world famous TPS report. So thanks to everybody that downloaded and responded to our first episode yesterday. It's really encouraging. And, folks were asking what the TPS report is. Here's what it is. Let's get into it. So I'm going to go to some sites, some websites of around the political spectrum, and we're going to take a look at some headlines, and we're going to read them together, and just see what we think. There's a great website that I like to use for this, and I'm going to recommend it. I'm not endorsed by these guys. I'm not endorsed by anybody. I wouldn't mind being endorsed by people, by the way, if somebody wants to endorse me. Or wait, am I endorsing them or are they endorsing me? It doesn't matter. I'd be willing to do either one. I'll endorse anyone. Anyone can endorse me. It's fine. Anyway, it's called AllSides.com. And it's a pretty cool site. It takes every story that's current, and then it gives you the headline from the left, the headline from the center, and the headline from the right. And they have a kind of like a media bias ranking. That's how they divide this, left, center, and right. I'm clicking on it right now. I don't know how they do the media bias chart, exactly what goes into this. But I'm looking at it right now. So I think they got it like pretty spot on. So they've got LLCRR. You can go onto allsides.com and click media bias to see this chart. And there's a dark blue L, a light blue L. There's kind of a purple C. And then there's what on my screen looks sort of like a peach colored R, but it's probably supposed to be a light red R or maybe pink. I don't know. Maybe it was originally pink, but they didn't like the pinko commie tones. Maybe somebody complained. I don't know. It's mauve, I would say, R, a mauve R. And then a red R, a hard red R, for the far right. So the far left includes sites like Mother Jones, Slate, Vox, no disagreement there. MSNBC.com, no disagreement. Atlantic, I don't know. I kind of disagree, actually. I would put Atlantic in light blue, personally, because even though they definitely are very left-leaning, it's really good writing. And they also have a lot of stuff that's not political. And I just think the writing on the Atlantic is really good. And I don't think they deserve to be put in this like very partisan bucket with, like Mother Jones. It doesn't make Mother Jones bad. That's what they are. And on the other side of it, right, you've got on the far right side, you've got Daily Caller, yeah, obviously, American Spectator for sure, Breitbart, definitely, Blaze, all that stuff. National Review Opinion. It's funny because I think a lot of Republicans think that the National Review is like now it's run by what do they call rhinos? I don't think so. And in the center, there is no real center these days, sadly, anymore. But in the center, they got Real Clear Politics. I would agree with that. I don't read enough Newsweek to know. BBC News. I don't really know how BBC News is on British stuff, but I think on American stuff, they try to just kind of report the news. I think pretty good, right? So in the mid-left, they've got Politico. Guardian, Bloomberg, AP, although recently I feel like AP is going a little bit farther left. Axios, which I think Axios recently is going a little more center. And then on the middle right, on that side of things, they've got Reason.org, Wall Street Journal opinion page, Washington Times, etc. Anyway, the point here is not what does AllSides.com think of all of these. The point is that they divide these up like this, and then they take headlines of the day and they pick from left, right, and center the headline on the same story. So what we're going to do together is we're going to look at these headlines and we're going to talk about them. And I might go to some other sites too. Drudge Report, which if you don't know, is definitely, if it was on this list, I'd put it center left. It used to be very right. It used to be dark R, and then it became mauve R, and then it became purple C. And I think it's light blue L, maybe. Who knows? Maybe it'll go back when Trump's no longer in office. They hate Trump. So there's Drudge Report, and then there's a thing called Off the Press, which is like, it's kind of what Drudge Report used to be. In fact, I think it's run by a former Drudge Report editor. So it's what Drudge Report used to be in terms of the political slants of it. So Off the Press, it's an aggregator, just like Drudge. But it's definitely more on the right side. I'd say dark R probably at this point, definitely dark R. Dark R, that sounds bad. Hard R, that also sounds bad. Just the red one, not the mauve one. The very conservative one. So we'll look at that, and then we'll see what AllSides has. And all right, well, let's just start. So I'm going to go back to allsides.com, and you can follow along with me if you want. Unbiased Balanced News. Okay, so, well, the first thing right at the top, not a surprise, top story, 2024 election. And the first story, the headline roundup, I guess they write these roundups themselves, I'm not sure, is from never Trumper to MAGA, Vance pitches populism in his RNC speech. That sounds about right to me. The left says JD Vance's populist pitch. That's from Time Magazine. The right says, interesting, JD Vance's Obama-esque convention speech. I wonder if he means that in a good way or a bad way. That's a guy named Jim Geraghty, who I don't know, maybe I should be familiar with. I'm not. National Review. What does he say? Obama-esque. Oh, it summarizes it. This is cool. So Jim Geraghty, lean right bias of National Review, far right bias, wrote that, quote, Vance's speech was Obama-esque in its ability to take ideas that are controversial or divisive and make them sound full of common sense, end quote. Well, that's interesting. That's actually not that far off from my take. Is whatever you do or don't think of Vance's positions, he articulates it in such a way that you want to listen to him. And I compared him to Obama too. So, hey, Jim Geraghty, hey, we should talk, man. The AllSides summary continues. The summary says, though Geraghty said he disliked the speech himself, he said Vance, quote, masterfully delivered, end quote, messaging around themes of, quote, protectionism, populism, nationalism, industrial policy, and quasi-isolationism, end quote. I'm not really sure what quasi-isolationism is. But yeah, you know, you guys heard my take yesterday. I wouldn't say it was masterfully delivered. I think he got really distracted by the crowd, and I wish that he had spent a little bit more time talking to the television viewers. You know, me, you, us, the voters. We're listening to what these folks are saying, and I'd really like it if they spent a little bit more time talking to us and a little bit less time talking to each other. It's my own opinion, but overall, I would give the Vance speech like a B, just in terms of like raw speech making quality, speech delivering quality. Over here at the political spectrum, we're not about policy. It doesn't mean policy doesn't matter, but that's not the purpose of this podcast. Not the purpose of this podcast. Policy Purpose Podcast. It's not the purpose of the podcast to discuss policy. the purpose of this podcast is to observe from my point of view, to observe what's going on in the world of current events and politics and all these things and the relevant things that we face as human beings living in America or other places too, I suppose. And so policy is part of that, but we're not going to discuss who's right and who's wrong. We're going to discuss what's happening and what I think about it, and what you think about it too. You can send emails to or put comments and wherever you see the podcast, and you can email me right at jjmichaelsshow@gmail.com, jjmichaelsshow, or you could do .show, jjmichaels.show@gmail.com. So that's the Jim Geraghty take from the lean right. The center-biased Financial Times Oren Cass wrote that Vance's speech was, quote, unlike anything heard from the podium of a Republican National Convention in a generation, end quote. I would agree with that. And he says the party, I don't think this guy knows what libertarian means. Oren, sorry, maybe you're being misquoted here, Oren Cass. But he says the party is distancing itself from, quote, the libertarian and neoconservative appendages that have so badly disfigured conservatism. I agree with the neoconservative part, but I would say that JD Vance's message is a very libertarian message. But I don't know what libertarian means anymore. I used to think that libertarian, I still think that libertarian, it generally means like non-interventionist in every way, right? So libertarians tend to be pro-legalization of marijuana. They tend to be pro-choice, although there are states' rights on it. They tend to be definitely anti-interventionist in terms of foreign wars and funding for foreign wars. They are. That's the type of thing that I think of a libertarian. In fact, if anything, they're almost, dogmatically unopinionated, you could say. They have one very strong opinion, my observation of libertarians. One very strong opinion, which is that unless there is a need for government to do it, government shouldn't do it. And I got to tell you, my experience is they apply that pretty broadly. This is a story for another day, but when I first moved to Austin, Texas, where I live, as a younger man, handsomer man, younger man, filled with promise, filled with opportunity, moving to the state of opportunity. So I thought. Anyway, I was sitting in a cubicle, because what says opportunity like a cubicle? I was sitting in a cubicle next to a man who turned out to be running for the Libertarian presidential nomination. I should remember his name. I didn't do show prep for this. I didn't do notes. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. We'll talk about him another time. And he did get the nomination. Libertarian Party was very small at that time. I don't know if it was very small, but it was about what it is now. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I learned a lot about their positions. He was in the cubicle next to me, and he really was the candidate. I think I'm pretty sure he ended up in a national debate like a year later. I can't remember, but I vaguely recollect that. I should look up his name. He taught me a lot about their thought process on these types of things, and it was a little bit different than I thought. Anyway, so I think Oren Cass doesn't know what libertarians believe when he says that JD Vance is distancing himself from the libertarian appendages. I think he just means neoconservative. Anyway, overall, I think I agree with him. We heard people last night comparing the speech to like Bernie Sanders, right? So in terms of its populism and its rejection of mainstream political economic policy and foreign policy over the last 20 or 30 years. But I think that maybe everybody is just getting the message. This is not new to me or to anybody who I would say is like under the age of 50 or so, maybe, or 40. There is a lot of disaffected feeling out there. And there's a lot of feeling, even in the middle classes and certainly in the working class, that the country has left us behind, that we're not part of it. And that's how leaders like Bernie Sanders and JD Vance gain traction. And it's not good or bad, it just is. And then on the left, Time Magazine, Eric, this is a great name. Eric Cortalessa. Eric Cortalessa, that's great. Beautiful, Eric. Anyway, he's Time Magazine, which AllSides gives a lean left bias. I think that's fair. Highlighted Vance's populist messaging. This is AllSides' description. I'll let you know when we get to the quotes. Highlighted Vance's populist message as in line with Trump's political brand and evidence that he is, quote, trying to quote, preserve Donald Trump's brand of right-wing populist nationalism, end quote. Cortalessa noted that Vance was previously a never-Trumper and conveniently ignored this in his speech. You don't say. Yeah. Did anybody think that Vance was going to stand up on the stage last night and say, I'm really sorry that I called Trump American Hitler. Shouldn't have done that. No, he's not going to do that. Not in that platform anyway. He has addressed that. People have asked him about it. I like his response. His response is like, I changed my mind. It's basically what he says. I don't know, make of that what you will. Maybe it's a flip-flopper. Maybe he's disingenuous. But either way, people do change their minds. And I do respect that he's just like, I don't know, I think differently than I did before. So I think they got it right. I think everybody got that right. That's nice to see. I think the center, left, and right, my personal opinion, I think they got that right. Yes, he's pandering to the MAGA base, of course. Did you see what that was? It's a campaign rally. And yes, it was Obama-esque. I don't know if it was massively delivered, but yes, it was. And yes, he is trying to toss aside some of the neocon appendages that have changed what conservatism once was. All right, enough about JD Vance. Gee whiz. There's no way JD Vance is spending as much time thinking about us as we are thinking about him in this first episode and a half here at the political spectrum. Not yet, anyway. All right, let's see what else there is. Okay, all right. Happening today, 79% of Democrats approve of Harris replacing Biden if he drops out. I'm going to click on this, but is this a story? I mean, I guess it kind of is. Listen, I'm not an advisor. Yeah, I should be. I'll work for anybody. But guys, if Joe Biden steps down, which it sounds like he's going to, by the way, the word today is that even President Obama, former President Obama, is speaking to him, and Pelosi made some Speaker Pelosi made some private phone call. The word is that even his closest allies are saying, dude, it's over. Regardless, if he steps down, it's Kamala. It has to be. She is the vice president. And I'm not even going to get into the question of, is it a slap in the face to female voters and to black voters to pass over the first vice president, female vice president of color, as they say. I'm not even going to get into that. She's the vice president and she's on the ticket. I think sometimes people don't understand how this works, but there's campaign finance laws. And Kamala is on the Biden-Harris ticket. So that means that whatever it is, $250 million, it's a large number, that they've already raised for that ticket. My understanding, I'm no lawyer, but my understanding is that she can continue to use those campaign funds. So that alone means it has to be Kamala, number one. Number two, it really is an insult to the entire party and to the American voters, the Democrat voters who voted for Biden-Harris, to not put Kamala on the ticket at the lead of the ticket of Biden. That's insane. You told us going back to 2019 that Kamala Harris was, qualified and suited to be president. Should you not be able to serve? You told us you were going to be a transitional president, which we all took to mean you were at least considering only serving one term. And everybody thought that you had chosen Kamala Harris because she was next in line. I don't know that she's done anything in the last 3 years to enhance the feeling of whether or not she is, would make a good president or to detract from it. I know a lot of people think that she's done a lot to detract from it. But she hasn't really done anything at all, which is not that uncommon for a vice president. Vice presidents don't really do much. And this administration has been mostly focused on protecting the president from being exposed in terms of his declining mental faculties. And I think that's probably a really difficult situation to work with if you are the vice president, or if you are chief of staff, or if you are a high-ranking cabinet official. It doesn't excuse any poor performance, because there's been plenty of poor performance. Things, in my opinion, haven't gone all that well in a lot of different ways. In other ways, they're really not that much different. In some ways, things have improved. But, like look at the border. Kamala was supposedly assigned to be the border czar, and things have gotten worse, right? They certainly haven't improved. But she doesn't actually have any power over that. She can't do any of that. The president, as the leader of the executive branch, has the power to make these decisions, and the Congress does. And neither of them have done anything positive to improve our situation on the border for whatever reason. You can't blame Kamala Harris for that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She's got to be the candidate. That's all there is to it. You can't take your number two, and then when you step aside, say, hey, surprise, number two, we don't think she'd make a really good president. Did we say that before? You can't do that. They've already lost enough credibility as it is, with the poor debate performance, with the cover-ups on Biden's declining mental state. You cannot make that same mistake again by saying, hey, surprise, guess what? We lied to you. We don't actually like Kamala Harris. Nope. Doesn't matter what they think. She has to be the candidate. So 79% of Democrats approve of Harris replacing Biden, says The Hill, which AllSides ranks as center. That's not a story. There's nothing to. This is not a blitz. I kind of thought this would go faster. I'm getting like a little deeper into each one of these than I expected. That's not bad though. I don't know if you guys think that's not the right format for the TPS report, let me know. We can adjust it. But what I like about, to me, the only thing that's like required in the TPS report format is that it's extemporaneous, right? We're making it up as we go along. I'm seeing this stuff at the same time as y'all are seeing it. Okay. Let's talk about something other than the election. Let's see if we can find something interesting. Is there such a thing? Okay. This is an interesting one. It is kind of related to the election, but hang on a second. Okay, sorry about that. I got a little distracted. I thought someone was knocking on the studio door, but it was just vacuum cleaner going in the hall. You probably couldn't hear it because our engineering here is top quality, don't you think? We can thank Jean-Pierre Didier for that, trusty assistant. Anyway, the story I'm talking about is the Jack Black story. I thought it was kind of interesting. So this is listed as news from the center, according to AllSides. Jack Black axes tour over bandmate's Trump comment. And if you don't know this story, I'll read it to you. I'll read the summary to you here. Jack Black, the actor, if you don't know who Jack Black is, you know who he is. He's the actor, School of Rock, and he became famous with Tenacious D, him and Kyle Glass, JB, KG. Anyway, there was a controversial thing that happened in Australia on their tour a few days ago, right after the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. I'm going to read it from the summary here. This is from BBC. It says, quote, Jack Black says he's canceled the rest of the Tenacious D World Tour after his bandmate Kyle Glass sparked an outcry with a comment about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. the comedy rock group were on stage in Sydney, Australia on Sunday when Gass was asked to make a wish after being presented with a cake for his 64th birthday. He appeared to reply, quote, "Don't miss Trump next time," quote. And in a statement on Instagram, Black said he was blindsided by the comment. Okay, well, that's not good. Yeah, so I don't know why it says he appeared to reply. I didn't bother watching the video, but I think that everybody accepts that that's what he said. And so Jack Black, they canceled the whole tour and then released a statement saying that they were going to suspend any further creative output until further notice. That feels a little weird to me. I can see. And I think I heard somewhere that Kyle Gass got dropped by their management. So this has got to be just a legal and business question. I can't believe. I mean, that's terrible. By the way, let's just get that out of the way. What KG said, that's awful. You can't do that. You can't. And he apologized. And his apology seemed pretty genuine. I think he was trying to be funny, and I don't get how it's funny, but I think he obviously went way over the line, right? But his apology sounded sincere. I'm sure it was, but you can't say things like that. No doubt about that. You can't encourage or endorse the assassination of political leaders. You can't do that, especially not as a mainstream. These guys are like these are a mainstream comedy group. It's not supposed to be edgy comedy. This is goofy, parodies of Aerosmith songs and stuff, and whatever, like Geddy Lee bass lines and who knows what. Anyway, but don't you find it a little hard to believe that Jack Black is like breaking up Tenacious D over this? I think this has got to be more of their management group dropped them, and until they fix that scenario and their lawyers clean things up and they get out of the limelight for a little bit, they're just kind of serving official contractual notice that they're gonna cease recording and touring until they'll work all that out. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll keep an eye on it. I don't know. If y'all are interested in it, let me know. We'll keep an eye on it. But these guys have been friends for decades. No matter how extremely bad, no matter how extreme the bad judgment that was shown here is, seems like kind of an overreaction to say the band's over. I don't know. Maybe am I wrong on that? Am I off base? I think an apology is fine. There's a lot of very extreme rhetoric going on right now, and what he said was awful. And canceling the tour, maybe that makes sense for sure. I think that actually the promoter canceled the tour in Australia. That makes sense. I would probably do the same. That's dangerous speech for sure. And dangerous speech can result in dangerous actions, as we just learned in Butler, Pennsylvania last week. But I don't know, break up the band? It seems a little much. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel like I'm off base. Let me know if I'm off base. These are sometimes things that I have trouble understanding, by the way. So I'd like your feedback on it. Okay. Well, I want to find something that does not have anything to do with this election, but is still news. So I'm going to click here, Balance News. I'm going to go back to the top, and maybe we can, war in Gaza. That's nice and light. Skip that for now. Menendez verdict. Okay, let's do that. I mean, what's there to say? New Jersey Senator Robert Menendez found guilty of bribery in federal court. Yeah, that's not a good thing. If you don't know the story, I'll read it for you. Now, this is not impactful on the election because Senator Menendez had already announced that he was not going to be seeking re-election because his popularity in New Jersey had dipped so tremendously when the story first broke. But it does sound like he's stepping down. Anyway, so he had a trial for corruption and bribery. And Here's the summary from the AllSides news team. Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat, New Jersey, was found guilty today on all 16 felony charges by a federal jury after using his power to benefit foreign governments and American businessmen in exchange for hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes. Well, not just hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's look at from the center, from the right, from the left. Let's do that again. All right, so we're going to start from the center. News Nation says Senator Bob Menendez found guilty of taking bribes. Here's their quote. This is a New York-based outlet. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez was found guilty of accepting bribes, including gold and a luxury car. Like gold bars, guys. He had gold bars sewn into the jackets in his closet, and it's crazy. From the right, Fox News Digital, which gets a bright R. Let's do bright. A bright R, not a hard R, not a dark R, a bright R. The reddest R, Fox News Digital, that feels fair, says Democrat Menendez guilty on all charges in federal corruption trial. The jury, I'm reading now, the jury in the federal corruption trial of Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat, New Jersey, and two of his business associates. Whoa, nice names coming up. Don't know how to say them. Fred Davis, Daibes. I like that, but this is the one I really like. Whale Hanna, Waelhana. Unfortunately, I believe that Fred and Whale are going to prison, so we're not going to be able to enjoy their names in the public eye for very much longer. But anyway, they were found Menendez guilty, the jury, on all charges after a grueling 9-week complex trial in Manhattan. 16 counts, sentenced to more than 200 years in prison, possibly, though such a heavy sentence is unlikely. I'm going to read that again. The conviction on all 16 counts against him exposes Menendez to a sentence of more than 200 years in prison, though such a heavy sentence is unlikely. You don't say. Yeah. I also think that the possibility of him serving a 200-year sentence, also unlikely. But I don't know. I'm not a doctor. And then from the left, Axios, who, as I mentioned before, I think they're kind of moving a little more center, my opinion. The left, the headline's the same. Senator Bob Menendez found guilty in corruption trial. And I'm just scanning through it. There's nothing. No, there is something new here. They point out in the second paragraph of this summary why it matters. Menendez, who filed. Oh, he did file to run for re-election. I was wrong. I thought that he decided not to. I'm not sure they're right about that. I'm going to check on that. Anyway, why it matters. Menendez, who filed to run for re-election last month, now faces possible expulsion from the Senate as well as decades in prison. End quote. That's interesting. Yeah, he can get kicked out of the Senate now. I mean, he probably will be kicked out of the Senate like right away. All right, let's take a look. Did Bob Menendez Google? I'm going to Google it. Not sponsored by Google, but you're welcome to try if you want Google. I'll take your money. Did Bob Menendez file for re-election in 2024? He did. Just last month. Oh, that's right. As an independent. I knew that. Politico has that story, if you want to look it up. Bob Menendez files for independent run in New Jersey amid controversy. That's from early June. That's right. So he did not seek re-election on the Democrat ticket, presumably because he would have been primaried, for being on trial for foreign corruption charges. And but he did file to run as an independent. Anyway, that's all she wrote for Senator Menendez. Probably deservedly so. That's it. And that's all she wrote for AllSides.com and this particular episode of the TPS report on the political spectrum. I have to say that things look pretty unified out there. So maybe the heat is dialing down. Maybe there's reason for hope. I had a lot of listeners who said that, they're feeling very afraid about the future of the country. and that they felt very encouraged by the tone of our first podcast episode. They felt very encouraged that we here at the Political Spectrum could observe the news and the events of the day without being consumed by them. We can be consumers of news, and the news does not need to be consumers of us. Maybe that should be our slogan. Well, anyway, I'm really happy that you guys were listening. I'm going to be watching Donald Trump's speech tonight, and I'll have some thoughts on it. I promised you that we're going to discuss, is Trump Hitler? And we are going to discuss that. I already know most of what we're going to say. I don't think the speech will change much of it, but we are going to discuss it. But we're gonna talk about whether America really does hang in the balance. The most important election of our lifetimes. Trademark, TM, copyright. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Don't subscribe to the thing, and even more than that, subscribe to the thing and share the link with your friends. We're trying to build a little thing here, and let's consume the news. Let's not be consumed by it. We appreciate you here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.